got to be coming through old dockets again with Morbid Sunshine, and we have a document here from a Benjamin Torres, the son of Valerie Mack, and I thought we could go through it together and look into his complaint. I'm just going to find my glasses. Okay. Yes, it's I don't know what's happened in the case itself. I've heard briefly about it, and I thought I'll look up and see if the documents are available. I found them pretty easy if you just do a Google search. If you wish to read through them yourself, it's the link below in the comments. Benjamin Torres, individual and as sole heir of the estate of Valerie Mack. Rex Heuermann, Asa Alarup and Victoria Heuermann are on this complaint. It's a verified complaint, which I don't understand. Plaintiff Benjamin Torres, an individual and sole heir of Valerie Mack. Preliminary statement, parties and jurisdiction. Plaintiff Torres is biological son and sole heir of Valerie Mack and brings the action individually and as sole heir for Valerie Mack deceased. A lot of people don't believe that Asa didn't know, and I'm there as well, really. You know, the paintings her daughter did and things like that. It just, that did it for me. And at the time, but at this time, Benjamin was 6, but Victoria Heuermann was 3, okay, or something like that when this occurred. So I don't understand why she's in this complaint. Did she do something afterwards that I don't know of? I have no idea. Immediately preceding Valerie Mack's murder, Valerie Mack was ferociously tortured and her body was dismembered. The action seeks recovery for the wrongful torture of my Valerie Mack for terror, restraint and pain and mutilation and dismemberment inflicted upon her before and after her passing, for the concealment and mutilation of her remains, and for the profound and prolonged harm thereby inflicted upon the plaintiff. The plaintiff also seeks recovery from the defendants of the monies they were given to exploit the slaughter of plaintiff and to publicly accuse defendant Rex Heuermann atrociously via media exploitation. It's a lot, that, isn't it, to take in. Descendant Valerie Mack was born Valerie Lynn Fulton. She later was adopted by the Mack family and became known as Valerie Mack. Valerie Mack is a mother of the plaintiff Benjamin Aaron Torres. Valerie Mack disappeared from Pennsylvania, in or about 2000 while the plaintiff was still a child. At or about the time of her disappearance, Valerie bore distinctive identifying features, including a tattoo bearing the referencing of the plaintiff's name on or near her foot or ankle. At all times, defendant Heuermann resided in Suffolk County, New York. Upon information and belief, defendant Asa Arab was the wife and resided with defendant Heuermann at their address at this address, New York, during I'll block that out. The relevant period and had regular access to the residence and its contents. Upon and belief, defendant Victoria Heuermann was and is the daughter of Rex and Asa Arab and Heuermann, and resided in the same household as the co-defendants during relevant periods, and likewise had access to the residence and its contents. Yeah, I believe that. John Doe, payers and contributors of the fund to the defendant 1, though to 10, including Peacock, are persons and entities whose true identities are not yet known to the plaintiff. Upon information and belief, said persons or entities paid or promised to pay the defendant's money, licensing fees, appearance fees, production fees, option payments, consultant fees, or other compensation for the defendants derived from these crimes. The crimes, concealment, or their notoriety. And I agree. The money should have been donated to the families. There's no, I mean, this side of the story, even to mention their name, The venue is proper in Suffolk County because the substantial events giving rise to the claims occurred in Suffolk County, including the discovery of Valerie Mack's remains in Manorville along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach, Oak Beach, New York. This court has subject matter jurisdiction over the common law and statutory claims asserted herein. Plaintiff will expeditiously obtain or confirm probate authority sufficient to the prosecutor state claims on behalf of Valerie Mack. Nothing in this complaint is intended to waive plaintiff's individual claims, which are independently asserted herein. On or about November 19th, 2000, hunters in the wooded area of Manorville, Suffolk County, discovered the black plastic bags containing partial human remains. These remains were identified as Valerie Mack. Valerie Mack's body had been brutally dismembered. He took both hands and severed above the waist, and her right leg had been cut off at approximately mid-calf. Oh God, sadist. Valerie Mack's torso, legs and arms had also been bound with rope. Such an evil man. At the Manorville scene in 2000, Valerie Mack had head, hands and right foot were not recovered. On or about 4th of April 2011, additional remains of Valerie Mack, specifically her skull, hands and foot, were discovered along Ocean Parkway and Galgo Beach and near Oak Island, New York. Valerie Mack's body was not recovered from a single location. Somewhere remains were found in Manorville in 2000. As for said, while other portions, including her skull and hands and right foot, was aforesaid, were found along Ocean Parkway in 2011. Upon information and belief, the killer splitting off Valerie Mack's remains between Vanderville and Ocean Parkway was a deliberate and was intended, amongst other reasons, to hinder her identification, impede investigation, and conceal the identify the killer and any accomplice. Upon information and belief, the torture, murder, and dismemberment of Valerie was carried out for a ritualistic, demonic purpose. Upon information and belief, the placing of some of Valerie Mack's body parts along Ocean Parkway was intended so that the defendant would be enabled to revisit those body parts for some ritualistic, demonic, perverse purpose. I don't understand how she was found, you see, so I can't comment on that, you know. But there's something very off about the family. Upon information and belief, defendant did revisit Valerie Mack's body parts. Upon information and belief, body parts of Valerie Mack remain missing. Because Valerie Mack had been dismembered and her identifying body parts were removed and separated, her identity remained unknown for many years. Law enforcement authorities referred to Valerie for years as Jane Doe number 6, or a similar unidentified designation. Valerie was not identified until approximately May 2020, after the application by law enforcement authorities of modern DNA testing and forensic genetic genealogy came. Before Valerie Mack's identification, plaintiff lacked any reliable way to confirm whether his mother was alive or dead, where her remains were, or who was responsible for her disappearance. Even after Valerie Mack was identified in 2020, the identity of the alleged killer was not publicly charged until years later. Defendant Rex Heuermann was publicly charged in connection with the murder of Valerie in December 2024. Plaintiff therefore did not possess a reasonable factual basis to sue defendant specifically until well after the underlying crimes and concealment had already frustrated ordinary statute of limitations period. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, that would make sense, yeah. Of course. Suffolk County prosecutors have publicly alleged that defendant Heuermann committed a pattern of serial torture and homicides involving the targeting of petite women, the use and controlled environments, the restraint and torture of victims, and the dismemberment and disposal of the remains of multiple locations, including along south side of Ocean Parkway in Suffolk County, New York, Nassau County, New York. Publicly filed criminal documents further allegations that torture and murder planning documents was recovered by the law enforcement authorities from it's my place. Recovered by the law enforcement authorities from electronic media associated with the defendant Heuermann. Upon the information and belief of the document included references among the other things like DS-1 Mill Road. It's the road that he used for Manorville, right? Small is good, holding area, build table, crossbar, hard points, package for transport, remove hands and head, remove remarks, ID, tattoos, destroy computer files, and have a story set. That's what they recovered off his computer, what he wrote, which isn't pretty. It's pretty damning in itself, innit? Those instructions and references correspond in striking ways to the condition and disposal of Valerie's remains, including the use of Mill Road, Manorville Road, and Ocean Parkway as a separate disposal area. The parts and the removal of the hands, and the removal of the identifying parts associated with them in separate locations too. Witness, familiar to Valerie Mack, have reported that she had a tattoo on her near foot and ankle referencing her son, and the removal separated disposal of her right lower leg and the foot is consistent with the effort to delay or pervert identification. You see, Valerie had an addiction. She needed money, you know. She was just a human being, and you know, his own daughter asks him, you know, did you see these girls as as daughters to someone else's daughters? And he didn't see them as human beings at all. And the suffering this woman went through, it's just unreal. It's why he needs to be locked up. He was doing something I feel illegitimate, unlegit. I don't think I can say SNUFF on sites on the dark web. You can do that. You know, camera, you know, tripod up and all that. Upon information and belief and planning document was not merely fantasy or passive musing, but a practical checklist and operational blueprints for the whole thing. Public reporting of law enforcement states also describes a secured vault-like or reinforced room with a large metal door within the, oh God, imagine being trapped in there with him, with Heuermann's residence, lower floor. Oh gosh, it's such a small room as well, and he's so tall. he's like 6'4" or something, isn't he? He's like super big, and oh God, it must have been terrifying. Public reporting and law enforcement statements also described a secured vault-like. Oh yeah, sure, sorry. Upon information and belief, the secured interior area existed for an extended period of time and was used for and was capable of harbouring secretive, violent, unlawful activity within the home. She never went in there, ever. I don't believe, I just can't. You wouldn't get tempted to look, you know. Public reporting has further described homicide-related materials. I mean, they knew about serial killers. They had Mindhunter on the table. They knew what he was on. You know, they couldn't possibly not know. They didn't look surprised when he was arrested or anything. Homicide detective's scrapbook containing gruesome photos of murdered, all kinds of stuff in it. And common area for the table during the following exertion of the search warrant. So they went in there and they found this like book, scrapbook of his, of tortures, what he liked, and the gruesome photos and all that dismemberment. But again, you know, it adds to another layer, isn't it? You know, it could be meaningless, but it is very meaningful in this case. And to not have curiosity to go behind that door, that's what got me as well. That's what got me. Anyway, the presence of such materials, together with the planning documents, the secure interior space, and the duration of the alleged crimes, supports the reasonable inference that the home contained observable indicators of violent and unlawful activity. Further on, upon information and belief, the nature, duration, and the repetition of their conduct alleged herein make it highly improbable that the other household occupants remained wholly unaware of the unusual, suspicious, secretive crime conditions and conduct against the victims, including the plaintiff, within the residence over the relevant years. Upon information and belief, Asa Alarup continuously occupied the residence during much of the period in which these conditions existed, and at regular across the room with a metal door, the common area, basement areas, furnishings, utilities and household items. Of course she was aware. Upon information and belief, Victoria Heuermann likewise continuously occupied the residence. She never left, that's what I mean, it's this as well. During much of the period in which these conditions existed and had across the residence, household effects, room with a metal door, the space from which the forensic evidence and the murder and torture of planning documents and materials were later recovered. I think it's possible she could have knew about Shannon Gilbert. Victoria, she was old enough. Upon information and belief, Asa Alarup or Victoria Heuermann had accessed and maintained and cleaned the basement and vault-like area, and would have observed unusual restraints, materials, odour, stains, or activity. I mean, watching her, I seen a few stains where she was sitting in the basement there. After Rex Heuermann arrest, the result public attention Asa and Victoria Heuermann gave or authorised public interviews, appearances and access to themselves and their home concerning the crimes, the residents and their claimed knowledge, or lack of knowledge thereof. So they had no idea what was going on, like neighbours. They were authorising like interviews and, getting payment probably, that way, with Peacock, aren't they? Upon information and belief, Asa Ellerup publicly defended the Rex Heuermann and stated words that to the effect he was not capable of murder when she knew otherwise, and stated that he remained her hero in order to mislead she, public and law enforcement to encourage Rex Heuermann in maintaining that he was innocent. But he wasn't, and she was trying to maintain that. Upon information and belief, Victoria Heuermann later publicly acknowledged that her father most likely committed the murders, and later declared words to the effect that his commission of the foresaid atrocious acts were merely kink behaviour, which she refused to condemn, when she reportedly claimed that she would not engage in kink shaming her father. I think it's about that. It's absolutely, she misses that, or she makes an excuse for him in that. It's as close to an excuse as she's going to get. You know what I mean? Upon information and belief, these public statements were also meant to generate media attention so that the co-defendants could generate compensation from the media and the public. It's true. Upon information and belief, Asa Ellerup and Victoria Heuermann entered into one or more agreements with Peacock and other media companies, producers, contributors or distributors of relating to interviews, access to the Heuermann residence, story rights, archival materials, consulting, production participation, or other exploitation of the notoriety arising from these tortures and murders, which is disgusting. Okay, think about what he's stating there. Okay, they're getting royalties for a story that's got nothing to do with them. Upon information and belief, Asa Ellerup, they shouldn't receive that. They already got paid. Received or will receive substantial funds as a result of those agreements, and precise amount of which is presently unknown. It's a lot. It would be equivocal for the co-defendants who knew of, concealed or profited from the crimes and either aftermath to restrain funds derived from same foresaid atrocities, while Valerie Mack's son and estate remains uncompensated and penniless. Wow. So that'll explain why nobody's brought this up or started reading this out. It's because these media places are paid off not to talk about this or to like mention, and they won't say anything bad about the family or call it out for what it is. And I think it's terrible for the victims, this, calling it king shaming. It's just ridiculous. to think that they didn't know. Everything just points to them knowing. The acts described herein were concealed for years through dismemberment and removal of identifying features. The separation of Valerie Mack's remains across Manorville and Ocean Parkway, and the withholding or non-disclosure of material facts. The removal of Valerie Mack's tattoo, bearing foot or lower leg, the removal of her hands and head, the separation of those body parts from the rest of the remains delayed identification. So that's even more evil, I find, impeded plaintiff ability to discover both the wrong and the wrongdoer. Such concealment persisted from the time Valerie Mack's death through 2000 and Manorville discovery. Through the 2011 Ocean Parkway's discoveries, through the years of which she remained unidentified, and though the later criminal charge of Rex Heuermann, plaintiff did not and could not, through reasonable diligence, discover the full nature of the torturous conduct, the identity of Valerie Mack, the identity of the responsible party or parties, and the existence of these specular-based injuries until well after the events themselves. Plaintiff was a minor when Valerie disappeared, and he remained incapable of during must have been awful for him, his infancy, of independently investigating the legitimacy of these claims. Any otherwise applicable statute of limitations is told, extended, or rendered timely by one or more of the following: infancy, fraudulent concealment. Following infancy, this is what happened. Fraudulent concealment and equivocal estoppel, delayed accrual principles applicable to the right of the sepulture. It sounds like a special type of mark on the evidence of Valerie Mack's body. The statutory extensions tied to the commencement and termination of the related criminal proceeds. I said he may not have been included or something. Plaintiff further alleges that the defendant should be stopped from asserting a statute of limitations defence because their own concealment, mutilation and misinformation or withholding of material facts caused the delay they now may seek to exploit. And it's very disturbing that it's allowed. Plaintiff also alleges that his right of sepulture claim accrued no earlier than the point at which it became fully aware of the interference with Valerie Mack's remains and the suffering and the result of mental anguish. Oh. Yeah. I understand. Plaintiff repeats and re-alleges each and every preceding allegation as if fully set forth herein. Wrongful death against Rex Heuermann. Plaintiff repeats and re-alleges each and every preceding allegation as if fully set forth herein. Defendant Heuermann engaged in intentional, wrongful, unlawful and torturous conduct and caused the death of Valerie. Such conduct included, upon information and belief, the targeting, abducting, restraining, assault, torture, and mutilation and unaliving of Valerie. As a direct, proximate result of that conduct, Valerie Mack was no longer alive. As a direct and proximate result of Valerie Mack's passing, plaintiff sustained pecuniary injuries recoverable under New York law, including but not limited to the loss of parental guidance, care, nurture, support, advice, service and assistance. The estate is also entitled to recover funeral and burial related expenses and such other wrongful death damages as the law allows. Such conduct included, upon information and belief, the targeting, abduction, restraining, assault, torture, and manipulation and the unaliving of Valerie. As a direct and proximate result of that conduct, Valerie Mack died. As a direct proximate result of Valerie Mack's passing, plaintiff sustained pecuniary injuries recoverable from New York state law, including but not limited to the loss of parental guidance and support and assistance. The conduct described was willful, wanton, malicious, and reckless disregard for human life, warranting punitive damages and attorney fees, cost reimbursements. I believe he should do. And I believe this case, I really hope they do. Because earning money off Peacock, I think maybe Peacock, they can't sue themselves. So they're suing the family who are just raking in, you know. Plaintiff repeats the re-alleges each and every proceeding allegation as if fully set forth herein. Before her passing, Valerie Mack continuously experienced terror, apprehension, restraint, and physical injury and pain, and suffering and mental anguish as a result of Rex Heuermann's conduct. Upon information and belief, Valerie Mack was unlawfully held and controlled and restrained and subject to a violent physical acts by Rex before she was killed. The estate of Valerie Mack is entitled to recover survival damages for Valerie Mack's conscious pain and suffering, fear and impending death, and related injuries sustained before passing, the attorney fees and costs and reimbursements. About the funeral, assault against Rex Heuermann. Plaintiff repeats and re-alleges each and every proceeding allegation as set forth herein. Rex Heuermann intentionally placed Valerie Mack in imminent apprehension and harmful, offensive bodily contact. Such assault and substantial factor in causing Valerie Mack's pre-death fear, terror and mental suffering. The estate is entitled to recover the resulting survival damages, punitive damages, plus attorney fees, costs and reimbursements. Battery against Rex Heuermann. Plaintiff repeats and re-alleges each and every preceding allegation fully set forth. Rex Heuermann intentionally, without consent, subjected Valerie Mack to harmful and offensive bodily contact. Such battery caused severe bodily injury, mutilation, and dismemberment and passing. The estate is entitled to recover the results, survival damages and punitive damages, attorney fees and dismemberments, false imprisonment and unlawful restraining of against Rex Heuermann. Plaintiff repeats and re-alleges each and every proceed fully set forth. Upon information and belief, defendant Rex Heuermann intentionally confined and restrained Valerie Mack without consent and without unlawful privilege. Valerie Mack was conscious of such confinement or restraint and was harmed thereby. Estate is entitled to recover a resulting survival damages, punitive damages, and attorney fees reimbursements. Interference with right of sepulture. At Valerie Mack's son and next of kin, plaintiff possessed common law rights to the immediate possession of Valerie Mack's body for preservation and burial once her remains could have been identified and recovered. Defendant Rex violated that right by mutilating Valerie severely, withholding body parts, removing and identifying features, separating remains from Manorville, Ocean Parkway, and upon information and belief, Rex Heuermann, Nasir and Victoria Heuermann were at other subsequent times otherwise concealing, delaying, frustrating, and interfering with the recovery and intact possession of her remains. I reckon maybe around the 2010-11 maybe. They were. The interference of Valerie Mack's remains was unauthorised, extreme, intentional and unlawful. As a direct proximate result, plaintiff suffered and continues to suffer with severe mental anguish, grief, trauma and emotional distress, distinct from the grief inherent in the way she passed, I reckon. Is entitled to recover compensatory damages, abiding and abetting concerted action. I think we're halfway through now. Plaintiff repeats and re-alleges each and every proceeding, allegation in cause of action 6, as if fully set forth. Upon information and belief, defendant Asa Alrup and Victoria Heuermann had actual knowledge and material facts concerning the wrongful conduct against Valerie Mack, and consciously avoided such knowledge despite abundant indicators of violent criminal activity. Upon information and belief, Asa Alrup and Victoria Heuermann substantially assisted and encouraged, facilitated, enabled, concealed, and helped continue the wrongful conduct and concealment of the aftermath. Such assistance includes, upon information and belief, one or more of the following: providing access to or controlling over premises, helping maintaining controlled environments in which violence and or concealment could occur, participating in or assisting the handling, storage, movement, cleaning, concealment, or explanation of evidence or space, helping maintain or create cover stories or alibis for ex-human, failing to disclose material information despite knowledge and opportunity to do so, and participating in the concealment of, and the monetization of the crimes and their aftermath. Upon information and belief, the assistance rendered by Asa Arab and Victoria Heumann was a substantial factor in enabling an underlying tort or in enabling the concealment thereof that prolonged plaintiff's injuries and delayed suit. By reason of such aiding and abetting, concerted action. As Asa Arab and Victoria Heumann are jointly and severally liable for the underlying torts and for damages to be determined by the trier of fact, and for punitive damages and attorney fees, costs, and disbursements. Civil conspiracy, common scheme in furtherance of underlying torts,